So hi there, I am Chip Dodd, and this is Andy Plumley from Support Services of Virginia. We are happy to be doing our next COVID-19 webinar update for the company to keep as many people as possible informed on what's going on, what's happening. I mean, it seems like everything has been up in the air and changing and the news and all of that. So we figured here's an opportunity for the two of us just to say, here's what's going on. How's the company doing? How are the customers doing? How are our staff doing? And what's in our future. I think uncertainty right now is driving us all a little crazy, and luckily this week has had some amazing information providing us some certainty, so we all will sleep at night, at least for the next few days. So this is pretty exciting. So all right, I totally did not put my list up here, so just give me 1 second to find my talking points.
I can while you're looking at your list, I have one. Last week when we met, one of our DSPs had asked about IDs, essential worker ID cards. Apparently there's organizations, companies out there that are offering discounts and perks for people who are considered essential workers, and we have now the ability to do that. So if you need an ID card that has your picture on and says you're an essential worker, all you have to do is get with your local human resources and they will create one for you. And the thing to remember is, of course, we don't wear name badges while we're working. We do like to have that consistency of sameness, so we don't want the staff to really stand out and look different than the people that we're supporting, but it's something that you can carry with you and use. Again, there might be a discount or there may be some benefit to having an essential worker ID card. So get with human resources, and thank you. I think that was Nicole who had mentioned that, so we appreciate her bringing that up and glad that we could follow up quickly on it.
Yeah, that is another advantage to these calls, is communication flows very rapidly from all sides of the organization to all other sides of the organization. You know, we got a lot of attendees on the call, many of which have not been on other calls. I realize some people on the call have seen some of this stuff more than once, but this is the one that can be shared. It's encouraged to be shared. We're gonna have a link on it's a hidden link, but it's a link on our YouTube page that then we send out. So if you're a sponsor and you tell another sponsor, you should have heard what I heard on this thing the other day, you can send them the link and the sponsor can watch the video and keep up to date as well. So you don't have to be on the call, but we really like the fact that so many people come on the calls and ask questions and give feedback, because we want this to be a two-way communication. So let me start off with thanking everybody who is sponsors, direct support, the people out there in the field working with the customers. We have still no known cases of our customers getting this virus, which is amazing, because what is it? It's been like 6 weeks and we have had 0. So that says that you guys are doing an amazing job. Thank you so much for that, for keeping yourselves healthy and safe, which is keeping our customers safe. And also for all the back office admins that have been quarantined to their house and figuring out how to work with home while homeschooling their children and dealing with craziness at home. As far as I know, things are still running smoothly. The billing is still rolling. The bills are still getting paid. Training is still getting done. Meds are still getting looked at behind the scenes and passed and all of that. So, so everybody at all levels is working really good. I don't want to leave out our operations people behind the scenes that are keeping the vehicles running, the toilets flushing. Day support's getting renovated in some situations because there's nobody there. It gives us a great opportunity. So thank you for all the folks that are behind the scenes supporting our direct support. You guys are doing a great job staying healthy and safe. And to date, we still have only had 1 staff person that has had the virus. They have since recovered and come back to work. 1 person out of this whole company, both customers and staff that we know of, that have had the virus. So compared to what you're seeing in the news, we as a company have been doing amazing, and I really appreciate all y'all's help to make that possible. So in the last couple weeks, we've been talking about the PPP loan, which you've probably seen in the news. A lot of bad stuff, because of course the press only likes to report the bad stuff. The intent of the loan was to help small businesses survive during this economic crisis, primarily the workers, right? A lot of people were getting laid off. We had to lay some people off, which really, really sucked. I hated it. I know Andy did too. But the loan, the idea that is, how quickly can a company get back to 100% staffed, right? The goal of it is to provide the liquidity, they call it, but it's basically the cash in the format of a loan to help companies staff back up and get back to business the minute that this virus is let's say, not, the virus is never going to go away, but to allow companies to get back up and running once the governor opens us back up. So our loan, last week, our loan had been approved. This week, we actually got funded. So that's basically checks in the mail doesn't work when you're trying to make payroll and pay the rent on your buildings that are not being used right now. So, so what that means is SSVA is healthy and strong, both health-wise and both financial-wise. We've got the liquidity we need to make it through the next 8 weeks, because the PPP loan is an 8-week period, and then tons of strings attached. As you can imagine, you've seen it in the press, companies like Ruth Chris and Shake Shack and the Lakers have gotten themselves in a world of trouble because they weren't really having any hardship, and they took the loan, and so all of a sudden now the federal government is looking into audits and fraud and all this mess, and so companies have to show hardship to be eligible for the loan. And so what happened to us, where day support got turned off overnight, more than $1 million reduction in revenues. I had to lay off a bunch of people. So we're at 80% staffing right now. So we need to get back to 100%. And so we're going to utilize that loan to get there. So if you're hearing in the press that the PPP loan, though a bunch of people are fraudulently doing it, this company is not. We are going to use it properly, absolutely squeaky clean, to every T crossed and I dotted, and we're in talks with our attorney and CPAs and every aspect of this to use this exactly properly. So that's that. It's, okay, so the Virginia budget is still in limbo as far as I know. It's still really bad. I think another 3-point-something million people filed unemployment claims in the United States last week. So this is really, really bad economically for the United States and the states. You've probably seen it in there. Some states are talking about claiming bankruptcy. I don't want to, most of this call is going to be positive, but when it comes down to the economy, there isn't much bright spots out there. At some point, I think the federal government is not going to be able to keep doing these PPP things. They're printing money. It can't continue. So I think there is a little bit of a reckoning coming. So I think when it comes down to Virginia's budget, they are going to have to make cuts. Luckily, in our field, and on the VMPP call that just happened the hour right before this, the DMAS staff, which is our funding source, basically, CMS and DMAS, they are well aware that we are already way behind on our rates at all levels. Sponsored, all services needed a rate refresh prior to this. And they acknowledge that the governor is probably not going to be able to do that rate refresh. But since we're already behind, we're also less likely to get cut than things like infrastructure projects, education system, and things like that. So I think, I'm going to cross my fingers and say I don't think we're going to be seeing rate cuts moving forward unless the budget gets a lot worse. But right now that they have not mentioned that at all. They're saying they're apologizing for not giving us a rate increase. That being said, there's another thing that they asked for. This was, I think they call it Appendix K, but they basically, our Virginia Medicaid can't really make a move or make a change to the regulations without checking it out with CMS first. CMS is the Centers for Medicaid Services at the federal level. So we had asked to have some flexibility in providing what they were calling retainer payments to providers of day support and other services that needed to be shut down because of the outbreak. So devil's in the details on this, but as of the call this morning and directly out of the mouth of the folks from DMAS, it's to help providers pay the bills that they need to pay to be ready to open when the pandemic is over. So for example, all of our day support locations have vehicles that are just sitting out back doing nothing, right? We're still paying the vehicle lien, or we're paying the $100 a month in insurance on the vehicle. We have these, whatever, Virginia Beach, I think we have 2,000 square foot of commercial space that is unused right now. In Danville, we have 2,500 square foot of spaces being unused right now. So this is to help us pay all of the rent, utilities, leases, vehicles, and they don't tell us how much, but basically that is the intent, is so that when the pandemic's over, we're able to be stable enough that we can start services again. So we should have some more information on the details. It just got approved like in the last 24 hours. So we don't know the details, but whatever, it's good news. It's them acknowledging the fact that companies like us took a huge hit. And it was only 15% for us. Many companies that were only day support went to zero. So they're in a world of hurt. And so we're in a good spot because we're very diversified in both geographically as well as in service array. So this money is well appreciated, but it wasn't a life or death for us. So that's all good news. Let's see, next up, which this I would have bet money against. I'm glad I'm not a betting person because I would lose a lot. But they are authorizing day support to be operated in residential settings. Okay, so I was under the impression when this got put forth, it would be group day only. But the way it reads, and I did on the meeting invite today, I actually put some of the language in there. They're actually saying both community engagement and community coaching can now be done in residential settings. So let me tell you how this could play out. It already is playing out a little bit in group homes. Like we can send in day support staff to go into a group home, provide day support services, and we're able to bill for it. It's not necessarily that the service is much different than the actual residential service, but the fact is the residential services, both group home and sponsored, are a daily rate. It was never designed to be a 24/7 rate. So they realized they needed to get some additional money into providers' pockets, and one way they could do that is to allow us to bill day support in the residence during whatever the authorized number of hours were. So we as a company fit perfectly in that sweet spot because we do both services. The companies that are completely screwed are the ones that are only day support because they don't have a residence to provide services in, and the residential only providers because they can't, you're supposed to be providing day support to yourself. I don't think they're necessarily encouraging day support providers to go work inside another company's group homes. But again, devil's in the details. So that's how it's going to work for us, is we're able to do day support for our previous in-home customers if they would like it in their home, right? They don't have to go out in the community and talk to the general public and get this virus. In group homes, we can now, and we've already been doing this, but we're now confirmed that we're allowed to back bill and bill for it in the group homes. And this is group day and community engagement. So if we run out of group day hours, we can also bill community engagement hours in the group home. The goal is to get us back to whole on the amount of money that we lost when this pandemic hit and we shut down day support. And then for the sponsors, this is another really good one on sponsors. If we were providing day support services, or a sponsor is sending their customer into our day support facility, we can now, if the sponsor would like, or if the customer would like, we can send our staff into their houses and provide day support in the home, giving the sponsor so much needed relief. Because the minute their customer stopped going to day support, the sponsor had to take on full care of the individual, no additional income. So this gives us the ability to give the sponsor some relief and have it be paid through day support. Really, really exciting, right?
Can I add to that, Chip?
Yeah, sure.
So the couple things to think about with that is, of course, we have customers we were already serving that or supporting that had service authorizations approved. And so for those individuals, we can begin to talk about, if we're not currently providing services to them, seeing if we have the staffing and we're able to provide supports to, say, sponsored or in-home settings. If the individual did not have day support through Support Services of Virginia prior to this, we would then have to work with the CSB to get an authorization. And of course, that choice option has to be offered also. So it would take a little bit longer to get that up and running, but that's also something that we could consider because individuals who are attending other day supports than Support Services, there may not be the option for group home from those agencies to come into your house and provide that service. So we could explore the option of adding that in, but it would take a little bit longer than the folks that were already receiving services. The folks that were already receiving services, the only holdup would be finding staff that would be able to come into the house and provide that support. And so we would work together with that. So probably the best way to move forward I would ask you to do would be to email me if you're interested, and then I can work with the day support team to make that happen. Well, Danville doesn't have sponsored, so never mind on that. So so kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to look also the time frame of it. Where is that email? Virginia Access, here you go. Through June 30th. That's the other thing on this. Any of this stuff that we're talking about is very time specific. This is not the new normal. This is roughly for the next 8 weeks or so. PPP is definitely only 8 weeks. This Appendix K is through June 30th, right? It says it starts March 12th, which was prior to us shutting down, so we're able to backbill. And then the anticipated end date is June 30th, but obviously if the outbreak doesn't go away and all hell's still breaking loose and day supports are still closed, obviously they could potentially extend it. So, so it's just be aware that this is not the new normal. This is under very specific circumstances, lots of strings attached, and so we are trying to skill up on this as quickly as possible. Okay, so that is day support. Got that. Okay, so now let's go. Again, the VNPP call today was amazing. They had a lot of people on there, really good information. I would highly recommend going back and looking at the VNPP website and looking at their past recordings. I'll put it in the chat real quick, vnppinc.org. I think I did that right. Virginia Network of Private Providers. This is one of our trade associations. The other trade association is Virginia Access. I don't know, Andy, if you can look that one up real quick, put it in the chat, that'd be helpful. But the VNPP main webpage shows the weekly calls. It's open to everybody, so I would highly recommend sponsors and anybody who wants information on what's going on at the state and federal level. Join these calls. They're every Friday. They're free. They use GoToMeeting or some type of software. You might have to download a little app, but you can go in there and look at past recordings. Highly recommend everybody, like all the HR folks need to be on there because lots of what they talk about is staffing related. The services folks should be on those calls because a lot of it has to do with what we can bill and what we can't bill and all of that. And then anybody else, I guess, between the services and the HR, there's a little bit of billing and financial stuff. So I would recommend anybody in the finance billing office, WAMs, etc., be on the calls. And then the rest of you that just provide supports, it's still interesting stuff that affects you. So if you've got the time, if it's one of them, you could be walking in the park, listening to it on your cell phone and just listening to it in the background. But you can always get to the recording if you want. Highly recommend you guys looking at that. The Virginia Access Brown Bag Lunches, they have been happening on Mondays and Thursdays, although this Thursday it got punted till May. I think it's because all this stuff with the Schedule K was coming out, and so we'll, I don't know if we need to put that information on. I need to get you guys to know when these calls are, so you're not relying on me to send out emails. But that one's also a really good call. It's a little more interactive. It's not a monologue from somebody speaking to us. It's really providers sharing what's happening in their little neck of the woods. Although there is an update from the federal and state level from our lobbyist, Karen Tefelsky. But it's a little bit more of an unstructured banter of, you know, providers working together to make it through. So the calls are complementary. They sometimes cover the same thing, but they do many times cover different topics. I highly suggest everybody do your best to make time to listen in on those calls. Okay, so we have made some progress on selling some of the cars and vans from day support because although I want to get back to 100% as soon as possible, not going to happen for a long time. So we're trying to use this as an opportunity to get rid of our higher mileage vehicles. And then once we need more, we'll replace them. So check in with John Bass if you're interested in a vehicle for you or your family. We are interested in first giving you guys the opportunity at acquiring the vehicles if you want, and if you're not interested, then we'll sell them to the general public. They have been maintained well by our maintenance department, and so we know everything about them. We know the records and when the oil was changed and when the brakes were done, and so you're getting a good quality vehicle, although high mileage, at a fair price. So check in with John if you're interested in that. The other thing is we are, I do believe on our website, we still have some computers available. I know a number of them, computers and laptops, meaning desktops and laptops, a number of them have been sold. But if you're interested in picking up a darn good computer that's been taken back to the basic operating system for $200 to $300, Drew has been maintaining them really well. And to his knowledge, everything works fine. So talk with Drew or go to our website. You can see it at the top right. I think it says computers for sale. If you're interested, check in with Drew and he can get you hooked up with that. And if you guys don't want them, then we'll try to sell them to the outside. But we do have some extra equipment. So this was another effort to help SSVA get some more cash so that we can make it through the next 8 weeks. Again, this week, it's all good news. In the past weeks, it's been a lot of really bad news. Nothing says it can't go all bad next week, right? I mean, so it's one of them, we got to be very careful moving forward. I don't want to be one of these companies that are having financial troubles in the middle of this crisis. So we're trying to do everything to be smart and survive this thing. Somebody's got to be there to clean up the mess when this thing's over. So that's us. Okay. Let me see. Oh, and on the laptops and computers and some of the vehicles, we are able to use PayPal or Venmo, which basically allows you to put on your credit card without us having to do credit card processing. Of course, we like to avoid cash if possible and checks if possible. So just wanted to throw that out there. So that's been working so far. Okay, so I wanted to have everybody's attention. So I didn't want to cover some things in the beginning and then you start thinking and you're not listening to everything else. I think we're actually, no, let's before we get into good stuff that will distract your attention, let me kick it over to Andy. Let's talk training, onboarding staff. How can we fast track it? How can we get back to 100% of staffing in the next 7 weeks? What are the barriers? What are the bottlenecks and what's being done?
Yeah, I think that a couple things to remember. At this point, we still don't have an estimated date for day support to open back up. However, with the ability to provide group day support in other settings, it's a good time to start ramping up staffing and getting people trained and ready and to begin to offer people opportunities. Plus, with the loan that we got, the payroll protection loan, it's also a time that we want to bring our numbers of employees up again from the layoffs that we had from day support staff. So we're definitely hiring, and we want to do a lot of hiring over the next weeks, and there'll be a lot of opportunities for people to both learn and to have opportunities to work varying hours, not just residential hours. Please remember that we still offer referral bonuses. And so if you know people who are not working, who are out of work, encourage them to apply with us at this time so that they're able to, even if they only work during the period until they go back to their other job, it's an opportunity for them to get some income. We're hoping they'll fall in love with working here and they'll want to stay. Michelle has been doing a great job of working with getting all of our training and onboarding online, and there should not be a barrier to getting people up and ready to work. The only holdup that we really have at this time is working through figuring out med certification, particularly the initial med certification, which is the 32 hours. And it makes it a little bit challenging if people are working by themselves and somebody has medication that they need to take. So it may fall into place that, say we found a staff to work with somebody in a sponsored setting, we may not have a staff that was med certified that could offer support with medication during the day. So that would be something that we would have to negotiate. But really, that appears to be the only barrier to med certification. Although DIB has offered us the option to extend out training deadlines, because we were already online with so much of our stuff, we haven't had to do that. So people are able to maintain their certifications and do their recertifications as the schedule rolls around, and those things will show up on your TheraP calendar when you're due for certain things. And the majority of the things are online. The exceptions are the skill sets for crisis and the skill sets for CPR first aid, and those are things that we'll be catching up on the other side of the pandemic when we're able to get back together, but we've already been discussing options for doing them on a very small scale, because as things like demonstrating skill sets for CPR, we could do on a very small scale basis and still maintain social distancing while doing so. For people in Danville or Lynchburg, if there's not somebody who's available readily to do CPR research there, the staff members can still do that Red Cross portion online. And then we can catch up with the other parts later as we figure it out. The good thing is we have the technology, and we also have a lot of creativity. So, so I think, again, right now, the barrier is the people. And, we know there's a lot of people out of work. We know there's a lot of people who are on unemployment. So getting the word out that we are actually actively hiring, and one of the few organizations in the area that are, that probably is the number one thing. Michelle, I don't know if you have anything to add to training, or I don't know if Tanisha's on the call about staffing or onboarding, but if anybody would like to add, that would be great.
Yeah, what I was hoping to do, because I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but the referral incentive, Tanisha, are you able to tell us what that currently is?
And you could just type it in if you want, if you don't want to speak. We just want to know what the referral bonus is. And as we're waiting for that, the other thing that I did want to bring up is, oh, it's $100. 100? That was from Connie.
Because I think it's two. I think it's like 3 months and 6 months. 100.
It's 100 after 90 days. That's what Camille is saying. $100 after 90 days.
I thought it was a two-tiered thing. 150 after 6 months. Good.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's a benefit for you to also do the referral. The other thing I did want to bring up, speaking of employment, we once again are in nomination for top workplace in Hampton Roads. We did win an award for that last year, and so we're pretty excited to be in the nomination again this year. There'll be a survey that will be coming out on the 12th of May. And we'll be sending out links for people to fill it out. We have to have a certain percentage of employees to fill out the survey in order to potentially win the award again. And again, it's a great way to really promote our company and encourage employees. So be on the lookout for that and be sure to fill out the survey. The other thing that's really positive about that is it is another way for us to get feedback from you all. So please fill out the survey honestly also, because it's this way of gathering information that we're able to then improve things and do things to make the quality of life for our employees even better. So be on the lookout for that. Lynchburg actually won top workplace already this year, and that will be coming out in July. So that's really super exciting. So we just have to figure out how to get Danville in the mix. Hampton Roads does include the Eastern Shore. So Eastern Shore is included in that. So we're really proud of that because, one of our goals is to be the best employer that we can be, and Chip and I work and our team work really hard on making sure that we're providing the employees what we can and making this a pleasant workplace to be. So so keep a lookout for that. There's a lot in here about the bonuses for referrals. It says referred employees must work 20 hours over their first 3 pay periods, 20 plus hours. They have to be in good standing. So, of course, they have to do the things that they're supposed to be doing. And then you get $100 the first time around. I think that's at 3 months, and then $150 at 6 months. So it's not just bringing your friends in and encouraging them to work, but then encouraging them to do the right thing. So hopefully we'll see some. We always like it when we get referrals from employees because we have good employees and most of them know good people. And so it's a great place to get referrals from.
And we haven't probably promoted this with sponsors very much, but if a sponsor knows somebody who would make a good direct support and come on board with us, I'm completely comfortable with giving the sponsor the referral bonus as well.
Absolutely.
Before this crisis, we were already fighting for staff, right? Because this was an unbelievable job market to where almost everybody that was employable was employed. And so we had a really hard time finding good workers. But now that there's like 30 million people without jobs, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get to 100%. But the good news on this is we are starting our staffing already way down. So even if we got no more revenues at all, we just stayed the exact size we are today, we could probably at least get to 90 to 95% just by getting to the staff that we currently need. But the cherry on top of the cake would be, and we also increase the size of the company, whether it be new sponsors coming in, new referrals coming in through in-home, group home, et cetera, and then eventually opening up day support again. But that's down the road. So any help that you guys can give on referring staff allows us the ability to grow, because we can't take an intake if we already don't have enough staff to serve the people that we currently have. So, so really take a look at those referral bonuses, copy paste it out of the chat, talk with your local HR person. We do want to make this available across all divisions, because in all divisions, there's the need for growth, there's the need for intakes. And so, you know, we want to get staff in now, so that if an intake occurs, we're ready. And we need everybody's help to solve these hurdles when it comes down to training and onboarding using technology and what's in person, what's not in person. We need everybody working hard to make sure we can find the ability to get people CPR certified, med certified, et cetera. Okay. Is that all on that? Did Michelle say she needed to chime in, or are we good on that?
Yeah, I think she said I did good, so.
Okay, cool. Okay, any other stuff you want to cover from the QIDP standpoint, or staffing, or anything like that?
I think that was all. I just wanted to, you know, we were talking about we hadn't had any cases of COVID in our community, with the exception of one employee who has had a full recovery, so we're really grateful about that. The nice thing about the call this morning is, again, in DD waiver services statewide, there's only been 65 reported cases and 6 deaths, which is very low. And that really made me feel really good, because not just for us as a provider, but the community of providers, it's nice to see that in spite of everything, we're doing a really good job of keeping the cases low. And I think the piece that really bodes well in this is how this reinforces the importance of small community settings. The areas that are getting hit really hard are the institutional-like settings. And so as deinstitutionalization has occurred and people have moved into small settings in the community, it decreases the risk. So if you imagine 20 years ago when people with developmental disabilities were living in these enormous training centers, things would have been very different. And so I think all of us are very grateful that, that we are at a much lower risk now. So.
Yeah, I think if we still had institutions packed with people, as we saw in Southeastern Virginia, they got whacked really bad. A lot of customers got it. A lot of staff got it. If we still had institutions with 3,000 people, I think there would have been hundreds of people losing their lives, and that really sucks. But the fact that our field has done really good in these smaller settings, we're not experiencing the loss of life that we really would have in the larger stuff. So the other thing is that you've probably seen in the news, but we need to reiterate it. It's getting warm outside. That beach looks inviting. There's more traffic. Just because the general public is getting restless and wants to go out and ignore the lockdown, that doesn't mean the virus is any less scary. It doesn't mean it's not less deadly. The hospitals are starting to pick up a number of cases that are coming in. So even though the government hasn't unlocked us as a community, people are getting restless and going outside because the weather's nice, and they're getting frustrated. So the number of cases is going up, which means we need to be on our guard. When you go out for takeout, or when you go to the grocery store and pick stuff up, wash all your stuff off, wipe off your hands. The gas pump is a terrible place. Everybody touches that thing. Use, alcohol wipes or whatever disinfectants. Stay on your game. The way we're going to keep this company safe is for you guys not to do what the general public is doing, which is ignore the lockdown. Please keep you and your family safe, because if you're safe, then you're less likely to transmit it to one of our customers that are very vulnerable. So I'd love to keep our 0 track record if we can on number of cases in our customer population. Okay, any more stuff on that? Let me see, is there any other questions coming through? So it looks like the photo IDs are up and running. Camille's got that going. Is that also, I guess, is that something that we can scale out to the other divisions as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Camille was going to work with HR and the regions to make sure they had everything that they needed. She had ordered the tags and they can be laminated and they look very professional. And so, yeah,
But
yeah,
I guess the
just
other
let your
thing is,
HR know and they'll get to work on
right,
them.
if anybody knows of a benefit being provided to essential workers, feed that stuff up to HR so that then we can feed it out to everybody so that
Hmm.
everybody knows what benefits that they have. And that's one thing. Like I had no clue until Nicole brought that up, that it was even a thing. And so, but we need to share that because different communities might offer different things for their essential workers. So that's really, really cool. Okay, so let's get into fun stuff. If Andy, you don't have anything else, we're going to get highly distracted now. So let's start off with our direct support staff. And I mean anybody that's a W-2 worker out there that's working in the group homes, that's pulling shifts, mid-level management. Because basically when this thing hit, we had two groups of employees. We had the ones that are customer facing. Some of the day support employees, we offered everybody hours because we needed staff. Some people, because of whatever reason, childcare, whatever, they couldn't work the residential hours or work those residential shifts. So it's kind of like we wanted them to stay. They weren't able to work for us. So they left. We called it a layoff, but it wasn't the typical layoff where it's a good worker that we're telling that they've got to go. They didn't want to pull those hours. But a lot of the DSPs are out there busting their tail, and so far DMS has not given us any hazard pay or any increase in rates or anything like that. So they've been doing it. They've been going above and beyond, wearing PPE, keeping our customers safe, and again, so we're trying to figure out a way, how do we say thank you? And so now that the PPP loan is in place, now that the retainer payments we're being told that we're going to have retainer payments, we wanted to do something in this pay period just to say thank you. Hopefully this is the first of many over the next 8 weeks as we try to get back up to 100% and make it through this craziness. So as Andy and I were talking about, like, what can we do right now that we can actually afford to help out the DSPs that are out there that have been busting their tail. And what we decided was we're going to look at the last 2 pay periods, average out the number of hours worked in a pay period, and then give that dollar amount to the DSP an hour, and $1 per hour. Okay, so let me give you an example. If a full-time worker works 40 hours a week, and they've averaged that over the last 4 weeks, meaning 80 hours per payroll, then the average per payroll is 80 hours, so they would get $80 as a bonus, as a thank you for the work that they've done over the last, since the pandemic hit. So if you average 30 hours a week, that's 60 per pay period, so you would get $60 on your check. So basically, it's a dollar amount tiered to the amount of hours you work. So of course, this incentive, if we were to do it again, which I would love it if we could, it incentivizes you to work as many hours as possible. We definitely need it right now. We would love to get everybody to full time as quickly as we can. But it's just a thank you out there. So that's the one side of the house. And I talked to Tanisha today, and we are going to be able to roll this out on this pay period, this paycheck, to say thank you for all the work that you guys have been doing out there with our customers. So now let's talk about the back office. So when this whole thing hit, we didn't do any reductions in our DSP side of the house, but an admin side of the house, we had to do a reduction because basically our revenues dropped by 15%, so we couldn't keep admin the same size as it was back in the old days. We had to reduce admin down 15%. And so many of our admins offered, saying, cut my hours or cut my dollars, do whatever you got to do to keep this company viable moving forward. And we really, really appreciated everybody doing that. It really helped. It got the ship righted, and so we could kind of wait until this whole PPP thing hit or there's retainer payments. But now that some of this stuff is coming in and the government's finally kind of figuring out a way to keep companies going for the next 8 weeks, we're very happy to announce that we can bring all of the salaried workers back up 2 hours. So like if a typical salaried worker was working at 40, we asked everybody to take what I call as a haircut. If everybody just takes a 2-hour haircut, it'll help right the ship. So we want to bring all of the workers up 2 hours. Okay, so that's the salaried workers. because that's a automatic thing that happens every week. And then there's other workers out there that are hourly workers, but they're administrative staff that are not necessarily customer facing. So we can't make any changes in the payroll because they clock in and out. But for everybody that we asked to take a 2-hour reduction, so for example, in a maintenance department, for example, we asked the head of the maintenance department to say, have your employees now clocking in and out only 38 hours because there's not as much work needed to be done because of day support. So we're allowing everybody to increase up 2 hours. Okay, so it's not everybody goes back to 40. It's if you're 30, you go to 32. If you're 35, you go to 37. And this is right now this week. If more information comes out next week, if we start growing the company, I want to do more. I want to get everybody whole again to the best that I can. I would love it if they would increase our rate so we could do even raises. But this is what Andy and I thought with the code, the regulation just getting approved yesterday. This is what we could pull off today to say thank you, to give you some certainty in your life, give you some money back in your pocket on this paycheck coming out next Friday, and then stay tuned for other good stuff.
And if I can add on, because the question may arise. Again, anybody who went below 40 hours that's administrative will be able to add the 2 hours on. Now, some people who are administrative are at 40 hours. So either their hours didn't get cut or they're doing a shift. They're doing direct support in conjunction with their administrative hours. So they're not below 40 hours. So the people who are administrative who are still at 40 hours will be included in then that payment out. So they'll get the $80 for additional pay for that time. So if you have any questions and you want to know what your personal status is, don't hesitate to email me. I'm happy to go over it. Or if you want clarification for the people you supervise, because some people had some unique situations, like I've gone to 32 hours with 8 hours of direct support. We want to keep those direct support hours in because we really need them, so that person would get that additional money. But I'm more than happy to talk about people on an individual basis after the call. So,
absolutely. The goal is all W-2 workers get something, right? Because the specific thing that the government has given the PPP loan and the day support retainer payments are directly related to W-2 workers over this next 8 weeks. Okay, so this is not Chip and Andy necessarily. It's we're taking what the government gave us and saying, how do we give it back, or some of it, because they've told us that they're going to give it to us. Unfortunately, they have not done anything on the sponsored side. Okay, the one thing that we can do for sponsored is get day support back up and running, which would then give you some relief, because then it's like if your customer was going to day support and we had to turn it off, you've taken on that burden. So now we can turn that back on. So when it comes down to sponsored, they haven't given us any retainer payments or anything, because sponsored really didn't go down. You were given more work because of day support. So work for the sponsored side. Work with your QIDPs if your customer would like to start doing day support, whether it be in your house or one-on-one out in the community. Let's get that going and give you guys some support as well. One thing for some people who do get overtime on a regular basis, the dollar rewards for the W-2 staff are up to $80. So if you typically work 100 hours every pay period, you don't get $100, you get 80. Because we don't want to incentivize overtime. You're already being paid time and a half on overtime. So it does stop at 80. So the max amount we would get on the dollars for this payroll would be $80. Again, we're going to try to do some other cool stuff moving forward. This is what we could pull off in 24 hours. So hopefully you enjoy it and know that you're appreciated. And we definitely want to do more moving forward. So, okay. Karen says we're awesome. That's good. Thank you. Okay, so I think that is, oh, no. We got some other really, really cool stuff. Andrea took the initiative to do a cool Zoom lunch thing, which has been company-wide, which has really been neat. They do like a little survey and they pick a meal and everybody makes the meal and eats the meal and talks about how they liked it or didn't like it and rates it. It's a nice break from work, right? This is just friends talking to friends about eating food, which we all love to do. I think it's every Wednesday at 1. And so if anybody's interested in doing that, it is absolutely open to DSP sponsors. Anybody with SSVA, you're welcome to get on there. and participate in that. I was hoping Andrea would put something in the notes on how, if somebody's interested in that, how they can participate. You would need to have a Zoom account, but I definitely check that out. It's been a lot of fun to participate in that, even though I don't cook.
We're going to put a splash message out, I believe we had talked about. Maybe we can make sure that that happens so that you have the link to join in, or so that you're included in the email loop, because there's voting that occurs and on what you're going to cook, and then you make it and then you talk about it. Or, I mean, some people don't make the food and they still come and talk about it, but it's a nice way to socialize and check in. So, oh yeah, you can, Andrea says you can email her directly. So you can do that, and she'll make sure you're in the loop. They also did a cocktail hour yesterday. I was sorry to have missed it, but I had something that came up. I think they're probably going to do that again. Jennifer, I think, was the lead on that, and at some point we're going to do a at-home scavenger hunt involved with that. So,
yeah, we talked about
the other thing is Day Support is starting up a regular Zoom meeting also for the people who are being supported in the homes with Day Support, but also people who used to attend Day Support. So again, for sponsors, if they're interested in, setting their guys up with some Zoom so that they can see their friends and maybe do some fun stuff, then that's another opportunity. So we're trying to stay connected as best as we can, even when we are apart.
Yep. So if that time of day doesn't work for the weekly lunch, you're welcome to do your own. This was just Andrea saying, hey, at Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, I'm gonna do a lunch. Anybody wants to come. If you want to do it on Mondays, fine. Set up your own group on Zoom or whatever. Do a lunch. It's a lot of fun. It just gives us the ability, the same stuff that normally would happen around the water cooler at the office when you're saying, how's your weekend? How's your kids? Blah, blah, blah. What's that movie you watched? Same type of thing. No work is allowed. It's just a fun time to have camaraderie. Yeah, the thing last night, the cocktail hour that Jen did, I think it was like, I don't know, I probably keep this adult, but it was popsicle sticks made from the agave plant. It was just really, really good. Everybody had a fun time making them, and we had a great chat. It was from 5 to 6 on Thursday nights. Highly recommend. You don't have to drink anything from the agave plant, and each week it's going to change. So you could have water. 2 attendees had water on the call, so it's not a drinking thing. It was just a time to socialize after hours and have fun. So that's completely open to anybody that would like to participate. It was just a way to keep in touch. Okay, so it looks like Andrea is also saying you can email her if you want to do the cocktail hour. Okay, and I think that's also they vote on what potentially special drink to make or something like that. So who would make lollipops, right? Or ice pops or whatever is what it was. So so that was that. Okay, that's all I had. Is there anything else you want to get into, Andy? Or?
I think that's it. We can open it up. If anybody has something that they want to add or questions, you just raise your hand and then we will add you, and I will try not to kick you out when I remove you again. I won't remove you. I'll just put you back into the panel. I do apologize for that last time. I'm getting better with this. But if you have anything you want to add, raise your hand. Heidi says the Day Support Zoom was yesterday. It was great to see the guys. Maybe 5 or 6 people and 3 staff showed up. So that was the first time they did it, but I think they're going to be doing that weekly. And Heidi or Cassie can be your contact person in Hampton Roads. And I'm not sure if Danville's going to set something up like that or not, but it would be nice. So there may be something going on there too. And again, there's no reason why regions can't do. We have Zoom accounts to do some regional type things if the sponsors or the in-home in Lynchburg want to get together or something. We have the accounts, so have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Every division has 1 or more pro accounts on Zoom. So for example, in Lynchburg, if you guys wanted to do a specific fun lunch call or happy hour with the sponsors and all that, we could totally set that up as a separate thing. But the main thing is, I think we all are stuck at the house and feeling a little lonely and missing the human interaction in 3D. So using Zoom and some of these fun things, it's a way for us to stay in contact and feel supported and realize we're kind of all in this together, even though we're at home. So please use this technology to keep in touch with each other, and definitely reach out if you are feeling alone at home and disconnected. Reach out to your admin office and offer to set up a call or something like that. It's one of these this is working really well. So, but it does take somebody to initiate it and facilitate it. So, let me see. We're going to play headbands at 4 o'clock on Monday. I don't even know what headbands are. I'm surprised Karen's not going to have a TikTok competition with a space helmet on. Let me see. Okay, so I guess not a whole lot going on the chat room. So let's recap this. I need everybody's help on a couple, 3 things, I guess. First, stay safe yourself, keep your family safe, don't get the virus, because the last thing we want to do is have our customers get it. Many of them are vulnerable, right? So it's safety first. Second, let's figure out how to onboard as many staff as we possibly can right now. The goal of United States is to get as many people employed as possible, right? So sitting on unemployment is not a good lifestyle. We know people, they feel valued when they have work, and they feel productive, and they want to make a difference. And so at all levels of this company, we need your help to get the word out that we're hiring. We are open for business. If you're part of the training department or HR department, knock down all barriers you can to the onboarding process. Just get people in, up and running, trained, and working as quick as we can. Second, once we actually have enough staff, we are really open for business. Please reach out to your case managers. Let them know that we're healthy and safe. We got no COVID. We got enough employees. We're ready for referrals. We're open for business. Okay, so that's kind of the tiers. We want to stay safe, solve the staffing problem as quickly as possible. We have 7 weeks to play this game to get to 100%. I need everybody's full focus on that. And then the minute we start feeling good on staffing, we're open for business. Let's grow the company back, because this 8 weeks, this short period of time, all of the fun stuff that they're doing, retainer payments, PPP, all of that could stop. And then it goes back down again. So what I want to do is get everything back up and running so that there's no more cuts, there's no more bad news. We are at full SSVA, 100% success, viability moving forward. We need everybody's help to make that possible. On the sponsored side, if you know people out there that are sponsors and they're not happy with their current organization, they might want a better provider with online training and digital health records and a positive management, whatever it is. We would love to help out more sponsors or more customers interested in sponsor come on board with SSVA. So every one of you on this call can do something to either refer a staff person, refer a customer, stay healthy and safe, and help us get through this next 8 weeks. It's going to be a completely different game than we've ever played before, but it's pedal to the metal on hiring right now. Let's see what else. I see some stuff coming through. So we shared. Okay, talk about the badges. So it sounds like we're gonna get that out. So, okay. Thanks for everybody giving us some appreciation there. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the call. And we probably, even after this virus is over, we have had a lot of good feedback on these. So we may not need to do it weekly, but maybe every 2 weeks. But I think people like being in touch and knowing what's going on. So we'll probably keep this going. All right. I will end the recording and I'll render it up, and we will get it put out, I guess, on a splash message or however you've been getting it out. It's through TheraP, in which I don't mess with, I think. So, okay, everybody.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Stay safe, look after each other, and reach out and let us know what you need. Bye.
Have a great day.